by far the biggest area of weakness that I see with spiritual entrepreneurs is in the world of sales, because they want to be of service and do good in the world. When money enters the equation, it makes them feel weird, or it cues up all sorts of limiting beliefs and stuck places. And so people avoid having sales conversations. But what I offer to you today is a complete reframe on the energetics of sales, because that's really what is keeping you stuck. It's the story that you are telling yourself around what it means to sell something to someone. And more often than not, it is like, how can I convince this other person to buy my thing? And there are many, many problems with that. First is this posture, convincing. If you are ever in a place where you feel the need to convince somebody of something, you have already lost. Second, to buy. You don't even know if the thing that you have is right for this person. You don't know if you match energetically to this individual. So if we are coming in with a frame of, I'm going to convince someone to buy something from me, no wonder it causes all sorts of mayhem inside of us. So instead, I want to give you a few words about what the sales process is actually about. So number one, explore. I want to learn about the person, about their situation, about what's happening in their life, about their energy, about the way that they see things. Next up, curious. I'm going to use my curiosity. I'm going to follow my curiosity. And that means being connected to intuition and trusting on where the conversation is going and where you're being led, and that things are going to, our third word that I will leave you with is emerge. This is an emergent process, sales. It's not scripted, or at least it shouldn't be. And if it is, that's probably another reason that you are feeling tons of resistance when it comes to your sales process. Now, if you're coming in to sell somebody something, the other thing that does is it adds pressure, right? We feel this tension of, I have this expected outcome, which is to get this person to buy this thing. And what that expectation does is it makes the energy crazy. It makes you do and say things to get the person to want to engage with you. And that pulls you out of your true self. It pulls you out of your authenticity and puts this pressure on you to sell the thing. And the other person is going to be able to feel that. It skews the conversation. And they realize, because people have a meter to be able to notice this stuff, that you don't actually care about them, that you are here to sell them this product. And look, all of business, but especially sales, is all about the human to human connection. If my heart can contact another person's heart and I can create resonance there, magic happens. They are going to be willing to listen. You are going to take away things from this other individual. There's this resonance that happens when we join human to human, two humans coming together, mixing their energies, and we end up with this third thing that is way cooler than each of the individual humans. But it only works if this person isn't pulling this way, while this person is pulling this way. And that's the general tension in sales, right? Like, you're like, come here, and this person's like, whoa, 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 I don't know if I want to do this thing. And instead, if we can turn those arrows in, and we can just have a conversation of deep curiosity and deep openness to see, is this thing that I have even the right thing for you? It might be, it might not be. So now I want to get into a couple different tools that can be helpful to facilitate this process. So the first is what I call the doctor's office frame. So when you are going into a sales conversation, I want you to picture like you're walking into a doctor's office. And when you walk in, you sit down, you wait, the doctor comes in, and know what doesn't happen? The person that's in there isn't telling the doctor what to do, what to say, how things are going to go. They're not asking all the questions. No, no, no. The doctor, who is the expert, is the one that takes control of the situation and sets an intention and sets a frame. And so that's the goal here. You put on your white coat and you take control and you say, hey, I want to share my intentions with you today. I am here to learn about you, to see if we are a good match, to see if we are a good fit. If we are, I'm going to tell you about my program. I'm going to tell you how I might be able to help you. And if it's a good fit, we'll get to either a yes or a no. So just by stating that, the person knows that you are the one that is kind of dictating how this process is going to go. And that's not because you need to be in control. It's because you're the expert. So you need to control the direction so that you can see and talk about the things that you need so that you have a complete and total understanding so that you can do an analysis for this person and tell them what it is that they need. So after this person comes in, we give them that frame, we share our intention, we give space for them to share their intention. What are you hoping that you can take away today? And of course, as with anything, we listen deeply to what the person has to say. We want to start to really feel into their energy. And one of the best ways that we can do that is to pay attention to the language that they're using, so that we can recall it, so that we can start to put all the pieces of what they are saying together. So the doctor's office frame is just the way that you are who is kind of dictating the flow of what is happening here, because you are the expert. And then you're going to give a prescription. You're going to tell the person, yes, I think I can help you, and here's what needs to happen. Or, no, I can't help you. And here are some other things, other places to go that might be of better service to you. And I only make an offer on about 50% of the calls that I'm on. So like I'm saying, this is a discovery process. Is it right or is it not right? Now, to open, once we set the frame, the opener is very, very simple because we need to stay away from scripts. We need to break the pattern of trying to force people to say things or do things or take it in a certain direction. So the classic opener that I recommend is simply, how can I help? That one question, how can I help today? And then shut your mouth and leave it open. Let the other person talk. And what you'll find is that typically they're going to start talking about one of three different things. First is their problems. All the different areas that they are stuck or facing resistance in their life. And obviously this is very useful information for you, because you can start to feel this person's pain and where they're suffering and what their struggles are. And you can start to see, have I been through this journey, so that I can help give this person some shortcuts, help get them to the other side because I learned the lessons already. Number two is goals or dreams. So in other words, what they are trying to accomplish, what they are here to do. Obviously, again, as the person on the other side, super, super important, because we're needing to build a bridge. The whole point of a sales conversation is to bridge these two things, or to see if we can bridge these two things, if we're the right one, if there's resonance, if we have the right skill set. And ultimately, what you're going to do when you get to the place at which you determine this person's a fit and you decide, okay, it's time to talk about the offer, the thing that I am doing, you've got to talk about it in such a way where you get the person from their problems to their goals. And the way that that happens is through the path and the steps that you can see very clearly. And so this conversation and this connection, even if it's the same offering for people, is going to be very different. It's going to be very context dependent. So I'm not just going into this pitch about the program, it's this, and that's the same for everyone. No. People don't care about your program. They care about solving their problems and reaching their goals. Okay, so next up, as I said, we need to, so how can I help? And then we let the conversation wander. So in other words, no scripts. Really important. Everybody wants one. And in the beginning, maybe like a broad outline can be helpful. I get it for those of you that don't feel super comfortable here or still dealing with your limiting beliefs. However, to have this like script of questions, right? So you ask somebody a question about like how they feel about themselves when they look in the mirror, and this person gives you a really deep answer. And then the next question you ask is like, how much money do you want to make in a year? Like, what? We were just talking about me looking in a mirror and how deeply affected I was by that. And you're just jumping ship because you are following a script. And that is not human to human connection. And people are really going to feel that. The other thing, take it back to one of the words earlier, is that this is an emergent phenomenon. So what I mean here is that grace is doing the work. Like things are going to be discovered or unpacked by following a flow that we could never get to by like trying to pull specific levers. So we've got to let the conversation emerge, because that's where you're going to find all of the gold. Okay, so we've let the conversation emerge. We've figured out the problems and the goals. Oh, there's one other bucket too that I didn't write down, which is less important. So people are, when you ask that question, how can I help? It's either going to be problem, goal, or context. So like what they think is useful information for you to know. And it can be useful. So definitely like when I'm taking notes, which I do on all my sales conversations, because I want to be able to reflect back to the person the exact language that they used. That's important, putting things in people's words, like word for word exactly. And that's why I'm writing down the context, so that I can start to kind of remember the different pieces of the puzzle here. Okay, so we ask, how can we help? We get problems, goals, context. We determine that this person is a good fit for our offer. We then go into the pitch, we tell them about it in their context, right? Relating it to their goals and how you're going to solve their specific issues. Then we ask over and over and over and over, do you have any questions? I cannot tell you how important this step is, and it cannot be skipped. Because what we want to do is continually explore until this person has everything answered. They need to know what the offer is. They need to know what the outcomes are in their life. They need to understand you. They need to understand where you are. They need to understand your prescription. If you go to the end of the conversation, right, asking if they want to do this work with you, after you tell them that you know it's going to be a good fit, if you haven't let out all the air of all the questions, you're going to end up in a position where you say the price and they're going to kind of take steps back and fall into, well, I didn't quite understand this. I didn't know that. Even though you just had an hour conversation about all these things. And the reason for that is they are feeling uncomfortable because their money beliefs are coming up in this moment. So we can kind of get ahead of that a bit, not in a manipulative way at all. It's just like, it's going to help the person make a more clear decision if they have an understanding all the way through. So you just continually ask, do you have any questions? Do you understand? Do you know how this part works? Do you know how that part works? Also, I skipped one thing that I want to talk about, which is before the questions, as you're talking about the program, as you're talking about the offer, really important, no focus on deliverables or even the back end of your offer. So I've seen this time and again where people really lean on like going to a screen share and pulling up all the courses, all the assets, all the stuff that the person is going to get. That's one example of this. Another example is to just start coaching someone to show or prove your value. Those are both doing the same thing, which is to prove that you're worth it because you, on some level, don't feel worthy enough just for yourself. So as you are giving your pitch, you need to make sure that it is just talking to the person's struggles, their problems, and their goals. And yes, you can mention what's happening in your offer, of course. But we don't, like, the details of the offer is not going to get the person across the finish line, and it's the wrong place to focus. And just like, especially if you are just like the person that is coming on to coach, right? That is going to show their expertise. Don't give away your value for free. Don't give away your knowledge for free. The name of the game with sales is that you are here to assess. I don't know if I spelled that right, but you are here to assess, not to solve. The sales conversation is not about solving things for people. It's not about, giving away your ideas or your thinking. Okay, now, once we get to the questions on the other side, we then say, hey, is this something that you want to do? It is X dollars, and we shut our mouth. I cannot tell you how important this is. After you say the price, it's $5,000. It's $3,000. It's $10,000. You sit there quietly and you let the person compute. You let them feel what they need to feel. And it can be really uncomfortable if you're not used to this, because it can be 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. I had one person go 2 minutes. I'm not kidding. 2 minutes and sitting there. And I just had to sit there quietly and let them do their thing, because there are different people that process in different ways. And if you talk first, what you are going to do is try and justify your price. You're going to try and get them to you're going to offer a payment plan or something like that, because you can't handle the discomfort. So really, really important. Say the price and then you shut your mouth. And you've already gotten all the questions out of the way. Price, close mouth. Now, after you do that, the person, it's their turn to talk, right? And so they're going to say either, yes, I'm in, or no, I'm not in, if you did your job well, right? There aren't any questions. It's not like, well, what about this thing? No. We already answered all that stuff. So if you did your job well, they're going to say yes or no. A lot of times, though, they're going to say maybe, because they don't want to let you down. They don't want to tell you no, and they're unsure. However, you just talked for an hour about what's going to happen. So the clarity that they have now is not going to increase. So you have to help this person get off maybe. Okay? Maybe is the only thing that continues to suck our energy. A no is great. We can part ways and we can move on to the next thing. But a maybe keeps us trapped. It keeps the wheels turning. So we need to help this person get off maybe. Just tell them, look, it's okay to say no. I don't need this. I know that I can help you, and if you want to do it, let's do it. If not, just say no. Okay. So if they do come back with maybe, you can always just ask, why? What is the issue that you have? And they're going to say something, and you need to engage in this conversation until you both, especially you though, come to a point of clarity, come to a point of complete and total understanding of what the objection is, so that you can just put it on the table. Part of our role in sales is not letting people get away with their bullshit, not letting people get away with things that don't make sense. And so if somebody is saying something that very clearly is just them not wanting to face you or the truth or make a decision or whatever, you call them out for it and you make it clear. You put it on the table. Okay, last thing is to just let the person know what the next steps are. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to send over an agreement. I'm going to send an onboarding questionnaire. We're going to book a time for our onboarding session, and I'm going to send over an invoice. Here's what you can expect. Here's when you can expect it. So that everything is set and that there is a path and a process that you have begun and that is underway. So that was not all inclusive, but there hopefully was some helpful stuff in there on the sales front. I realized as I was going through it, my notes kind of were a little bit jumpy. I must have brain dumped it out of order, which happens every once in a while. So if you want more on sales or business at large, I'll put a link in the description of this video. I dive deep with people in a 6-month container to help on the business side of things. It is guided and grounded in energetics, spiritual principles, and service. I'm not really interested in building your business if you're doing it for you, to be honest. I'm interested in building your business if you're interested in contributing to the whole and rebuilding Gaia and community. So if that interests you, I'll put that down there. I've also got a free community that you can come in. We have calls every week. One week is more esoteric. The next week is more business. There's member calls in there, a whole bunch of useful stuff. So thanks for being here. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.